again for the Halachos hosting us. So we're going to continue tonight with the Halachos of Ben Mitzarim, focusing tonight on the Halachos of Tisha B'Av, and specifically this year with Tisha B'Av falling out on Shabbos. So just in continuing with the theme of what we've been speaking about from the 3 weeks to the 9 days in through Tisha B'Av, so this is the morning is intensifying, and it started with the 3 weeks with not listening to music and getting married and haircuts, and then now in the 9 days it intensifies with all the halachas of meat and wine and washing and buying things and all these things, and then the Tisha B'Av itself. The halachas of Tisha B'Av itself are patterned after the halachas of a person who is sitting shiva. And it's the one day a year that we focus intensely on the avelos of the churban. I'll just mention this thing. On the WhatsApp group, a lot of you are part of it, and get all sorts of questions about what a person can do and can't do. And so I've just put out there a comment this week about it. The attitude. The halacha is here to try to get us to focus and to try to get us to remember. But the attitude that we're supposed to be having, and we'll see that the halachas of Tisha B'Av are really intense in this way. Are supposed to get us to focus. If something so important to me was just lost, if something that was like so precious, something so precious and so powerful and so important to me and to the world and everything, and it was lost. So would I be thinking about dyeing my hair, or would I be thinking about, doing this or doing that or these other things? So obviously a person can't do that a whole year long. A person would, go crazy. Although it says in Shulchan Aruch, the very first simon of Shulchan Aruch, it says, a person is Yeri Shemayim Roi Lo Mitzvah V'Doik Tamed. He should always be troubled and disturbed and upset about the fact that we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. And there's an idea of tikkun chatzos that people say every single night. They get up in the middle of the night, they daven, they cry for the Beis Hamikdash. And there are people who are on a very high madrega that treat the whole year this way. Most of us can't handle that. Most of us wouldn't be able to handle it if we were required to have this level of intensity of focus all year long. So we can't do it, and we don't do it. It wouldn't be healthy for us. But for this time of year, the 9 days, and especially for Tisha B'Av itself, this is not a time that we're supposed to be like looking for shortcuts and looking to, to get around the halacha and to try to, but is it mutter? We're really just supposed to try to be focusing on what it is, and the halacha is set up around that. So I want to speak about the halachos of Tisha B'Av, and like I said, also this year especially, there's a number of things that are different with respect to Tisha B'Av falling out on Shabbos and then being pushed off until Sunday. Maybe we'll start just with we'll start with the halachos of Tisha B'Av, and then I'll treat Shabbos like the Shabbos related halachos separately, although sometimes they get they mix in. Let's start opposite. Let's start going into Shabbos. Let's just start with Shabbos first. We'll go chronologically into the day.
Do you have guests for Shabbos?
You can have guests for Shabbos. They say at Shal Shudis, it's better not to have guests if it's just for just for friendly purposes. In other words, if you have people who don't have a place to stay and they're looking for meals, then you can certainly have them. They say for Shal Shudis already, it's better not to have guests for that meal. But other than that, Shabbos we treat like like a regular Shabbos. We learn Torah and we sing songs and we treat it like a regular day. Whereas most years, Erev Tisha B'Av already, there's a lot of halachos that apply. Erev Tisha B'Av already you can't learn Torah and you can't go on Tilim, and a number of halachos that already start to happen. So this year we don't have that at all. In addition, in a regular year, right before Tisha B'Av, there's a halacha of a suda mafsekes. There's a whole halacha of sitting on the floor and having bread with ashes and dipped in ashes, and so that we don't do this year at all. And the last suda that we eat right before Tisha B'Av is going to be Shal Shudis, and provided that we stop on time, which we'll talk about. But at Shal Shudis you could eat whatever you want, however much you want. You can have fleishigs and you fill up as much as a person wants. So that's also a difference. This year going into Tisha B'Av. Other than that, the halachos of Tisha B'Av are the same, except there's some things that are a little bit funny because normally Tisha B'Av begins at sunset at Shkia, but we know that Shabbos doesn't end until Tzeis HaKochavim, right, until the stars come out. So there's a period of time, right, which we call Bein Hashmashot, the period of time between sunset and when the stars come out, that is half and half time. and that's a period of time depending on where you are in the world, depending on what your, how far you are north or south. It could be anywhere between, in Israel, it's relatively short. The closer to the equator is the shorter amount of time it is. But if you go far up, it could be, in America, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, even, longer than that, the farther up you go. So the question is, what about that time period now? Again, we're talking about on Shabbos going into Motzei Shabbos. Shabbos itself is either Tisha B'Av or going into the 10th of Av, or if you have Tisha B'Av that falls out naturally on a Sunday, it's the same thing. So on the one hand, it's Shabbos, and we're not allowed to show overt activities of mourning on Shabbos, but at the same time it's Tisha B'Av, and how can you eat and drink and do these types of things on Tisha B'Av? The halacha is as follows. It's just important to keep in mind. When we're coming into Shabbos afternoon, it's like we said, you eat shalshidis, you can have a regular meal, eat as much as you want. But when sunset comes, we have to have stopped eating and drinking and washing. Eating and drinking and washing. And the reason is because by not doing something, that doesn't show that I'm mourning, right? I'm just not eating, right? I'm just not drinking. We don't change out of our shoes, though, right? Because changing out of your shoes would be an act of active mourning. So if you're not wearing, let's say, you were wearing slippers during Shalosh Hodis, or you're wearing socks during Shalosh Hodis, so then after nightfall, after Shkia, before Tzeis, Kochavim, you would not be allowed to put on your leather shoes, right? Because then just like eating and drinking. But if you're wearing leather shoes, don't take them off at sunset, because that's like an active act of mourning. And we're not going to go and sit down on the floor either. We're not going to do any of those things. So we're not going to eat, we're not going to drink, right? Because it's already that time. We're not going to change our shoes though, and we're not going to do anything else that's an active sign of mourning, right? During that time period. Okay, so it's like a little bit of like a limbo time period. Now, what most
so it would be the time that we usually have them going on Shabbos. We then start.
That's when the fast begins. Exactly. Whatever time it says on the luach, or whatever time is your minhag at home, when Shabbos is over, so then that's when you take off your shoes. They say Baruch Hamavdil in Kodesh L'chol. You're going to take off your shoes. Change out of your Shabbos clothes, right? Because you have to change out of your Shabbos clothes. On Tisha B'Av, you're not, just like during the 9 days, on Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to wear Shabbos clothing, so you have to change out of your Shabbos clothes. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you do if you're someone, my daughter will be in a situation where she's in another city, and they'll have to have walked to some third meal to be close to the shul, nowhere near.
So I guess when then they can. I'm saying if they can't, they can't. If they can bring their change of clothes before Shabbos, that would be best. If they can arrange that. For the shoes, they really should have. They really have to try to arrange something from before Shabbos to have shoes available for them, because that they really shouldn't be wearing. What most shuls do, what people do. So how do they work it out? What most shuls do is that they will daven Ma'ariv later than usual. Usually, whereas a shul will daven Ma'ariv at the time that Shabbos comes out, or sometimes even a few minutes before, or a few minutes after. So they'll make Ma'ariv like a half an hour later to give people time to finish Shabbos at home, say Baruch Hamavdil in Kodesh L'chol, change out of their shoes, change out of their Shabbos clothes, take their kinos, right, and their and their eicha, because you're not allowed to bring that with you on Shabbos either, because you're not allowed to get ready for after Shabbos. We'll get to that in 1 second. To take their Sidurim and take them with them to Shul, and then they daven Ma'ariv, and then from Ma'ariv go into Eicha and Kinos. You understand what I'm saying? That's what most communities do. So now if you're a woman and you're not going to be going to Shul, which most married women don't, for Eicha night. Again, what's important to realize, once Shkia comes, once sunset comes, there's no more eating and drinking. For you, for any people who are fasting, kids, if they're fasting, anybody. But when Tzeis Kochavim comes, whatever time that is, you have to look up and see what time it is that Shabbos is going to be over. So when that time comes, you say the words Baruch Hamavdil in Kodesh L'chol. We're not going to make Havdalah. We'll talk about that in a second. We're not going to make Havdalah. You're going to say Baruch Hamavdil in Kodesh L'chol, and then you're going to take off your leather shoes and put on your non-leather shoes, and you're going to change out of your Shabbos clothing and put on your regular clothing. If you're wearing jewelry, you'll take off the jewelry. We'll get to to all these things. Whatever the halachos are.
And you also can't wash dishes. Right?
And you can't wash your dishes. Motzei Shabbos. Until Sunday afternoon. Right. That's correct. What we said about Havdalah, so the halacha is as follows. We don't make Havdalah now, Motzei Shabbos, unless a person is sick. If a person is sick, or if let's say a woman who just gave birth, or a pregnant woman who is not fasting, So anybody who's going to be eating regularly on Tisha B'Av, so then they have to make Havdalah if they're before they eat. That's halacha. Every Motzei Shabbos you're not allowed to eat or drink until you make Havdalah. So the same thing is true when it comes to Tisha B'Av being on Sunday. So a person who's going to normally the halacha is for most people we don't make Havdalah until Sunday night. We'll get to the details in a second. We push off Havdalah. That meaning the bracha that we make on the coast, right? Bring your gafen, and then hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol, ben or l'choshech. Right? So that we're going to push off until Sunday night. Again, if a person needs to eat until, we'll get there later. Now, the two other things that we do with Havdalah are the bracha of the fire, right? Borei Marei Eish, and the bracha of Borei Minei B'Samim. Right? So there's four brachos we make Motzei Shabbos. Right? The truth is not really related with each other. It's just the fact that we're making Havdalah and we're making it on a coast. So Chazal said, you know what? We'll say now Borei Marei Eish and B'Samim also. But if a person missed Havdalah, they can make each one of these brachos independently, right? And men and women, according to most poskim, all the brachos independently. So on Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos Tisha B'Av is where this comes into effect, because each one is going to get a different halacha. The Brei Pri Hagafen and the Havdalah, we're going to wait until Sunday night. The Brei Minei B'Samim, we're going to skip completely. There's no B'Samim this year. We don't make B'Samim Motzei Shabbos. And the Borei Morei Ha'esh, we're going to do Motzei Shabbos. Okay, so Shabbos night, I'm going to go over it again. I'm going to go over it night. I'm going to go over it again. But Shabbos night, this is what's going to happen. Coming Saturday afternoon, you had Shalosh Chodesh. It came sunset. You stopped eating. You stopped washing. It came nightfall. You changed out of your shoes. You changed out of your Shabbos clothing. Okay. Now, normally you would make Havdalah now on a Shabbos night, Motzei Shabbos. We don't make Havdalah, right? Havdalah, but Havdalah is broken up into a few different pieces. So we're going to split those pieces up. There's the Brei Pri Hagafen and the Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'chol. That's like the big bracha that we make. That we're going to push off till Sunday night. After the fast, when your husband comes home from shul or whatever, when you're finished with the fast, you're going to make Havdalah.
But you said Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh.
But you didn't make Havdalah on a cup of wine with the proper bracha. You just said that line that lets you do malacha. Okay. But you didn't do Havdalah. You didn't do the mitzvah of Havdalah. Mitzvah of Havdalah this year, this Shabbos is suspended for 24 hours. We're going to do it Sunday night. However, the other two components we're going to treat now on their own. B'Samim, we're going to not do at all. You don't do B'Samim on this Shabbos at all. And Borei Marei Ha'esh, we are going to do on Motzei Shabbos, like we always do. It's just, usually we do it in the context of what we call Havdalah, but it's not really part of Havdalah. It's just, we group it together with Havdalah. So this week, when we're not making Havdalah, we're going to make the Borei Marei Ha'esh on its own. Now, some people have the minhag that women don't make this bracha. The Mishnah Berurah even brings that down. But Halacha Ma'asim poskim the modern day poskim say that even women should make the bracha of Borei Marei Ha'esh and Borei Minei B'Samim and Havdalah. No, for some reason, there's I think we spoke about this maybe even last week. Some people have a misconception about women not making Havdalah or not making these brachos. Halacha Ma'asim person can make these brachos, all of them. So when it comes to Motzei Shabbos Tisha B'Av, very often the men will already hear Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh in shul. The sons will make it by Eicha or they'll make it by Baruch Hu. So this is the one time a year that sometime, or the one time when it falls out, that women will find themselves making the bracha of Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh for themselves at home. So you just have to keep that in mind.
Is it better to make it for yourself at home or wait till your husband comes back and makes
Well,
it?
if he didn't make it, then it's better for him to make it. If he already made it,
If he heard it, no. If he made it or heard it.
Well, that's the same thing. Him hearing it and being yotze with it is the same as him making it. That's as if he said it. It's as if he said it. So if he has in mind not to be yotze and he says, no, I'm going to wait till I come home and I'm going to make the bracha together with my wife, so then that's great. That's the best thing to do. If he already was yotze in shul by listening to it and seeing the fire, so then you should make it for yourself, which is fine. Again, some people don't think that you can, but
So I would literally, or he would literally just light the candle, Borei Marei Ha'esh, look at your nails and put out the candle.
Exactly, yeah. Two candles, a double candle, exactly.
Right,
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. You light it, make the bracha Borei Ha'esh, you look at the light, I'll give it your nails, and that's it.
Isn't that how you put out the candle?
No, I'm saying some people are not to blow it out, but it's not,
Right.
it's not a, no.
Okay, just the normal.
Yeah, that's the halach when it comes to that. And okay, now like I said, we talk about eating and drinking during the fast. in terms of Havdalah. Okay, so as far as Shabbos is concerned, I think those are all of the things we have to keep in mind. At sunset you have to stop eating, drinking. Nightfall you have to end Shabbos.
Can I just ask
Sure.
quickly about Erev Shabbos, like
Friday.
Thursday night to Friday afternoon? Why don't we treat that like Erev Tisha B'Av? Because Shabbos is technically.
It's such a good
actually
question.
Tisha
You know what?
B'Av.
I had this question. I had this question last year, because last year was also the same thing. Shabbos came out on Tisha B'Av, and I'll tell you the question. What makes it stronger is because usually when I teach these shurim before regular Tisha B'Av, that doesn't come out on Shabbos, and I talk about the halachos of the erev Tisha B'Av. The poskim say the reason for these halachos, it's not because tomorrow is Tisha B'Av, it's because on that day already bad things started happening. On the 8th of Av already the tzara started happening, and therefore we start mourning already on Erev Tisha B'Av on a normal year. So I think I spoke to some people last year. I asked just friends of mine, say, how come we don't do that this year? And it was on Friday. I understand we're going to not have Tisha B'Av on Shabbos, we'll push it off, but why not have Erev Tisha B'Av on Erev Tisha B'Av? So the only thing that we came to is that that's the koach of Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos is also a special day leading up into Shabbos, and it's also not a day that's fitting for Avelos. Although we do find that you could fast on Erev Shabbos, right? A Asar B'Teves can come out on Erev Shabbos, and then we'll fast. It doesn't come out so frequently, but you can have Erev Shabbos Asar B'Teves, and you break the fast on Kiddush, on Shabbos night. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's a very, very good question.
People can't bring in Shabbos early and eat meat, though.
Yes, you can. Yes. If you bring in your Shabbos early, yes, you can. Yeah, we make early Shabbos. These weeks in summer. Yes, one and same thing Motzei Shabbos. Let's say not next week Motzei Shabbos going into Tisha B'Av. Let's say yesterday, if we would have extended Shalosh Shudas and you had Fleishes and Shalosh Shudas and you extended Shalosh Shudas until 10 p.m., you could do that as long as it's still Shabbos. No, as long as it's still Shabbos, as long as the halachas of Shabbos are still there, you could do it. As long as okay. So I'm pretty sure that as far as Shabbos goes, these are the important halachos to be aware of. Except again for Havdalah, which we'll get to if we speak about eating and drinking on the fast itself. Okay, so now let's talk about Tisha B'Av. On Tisha B'Av itself, there are a number of halachos that apply. I'm going to break the halachos up into two categories, to two groups of halachos. The one area of halachos are like those halachos that have to do with me and eating and grooming, taking care of myself, eating and drinking and grooming and doing these types of things, self-maintenance. And the other halachos have to do with my interaction with other people and my my focus of the day. Different halachos that are set up in order to maintain focus throughout the day. So we're just going to go through the halachos, the basics of them, and a few questions that come up. So eating and drinking is the most basic one. Let's go through first of all what they are. First of all just the overview of all of them. The basic halachos of what are not allowed on Tisha B'Av are as follows: eating and drinking, washing, anointing, and wearing leather shoes. That's I'm putting in category one. These things of taking care of myself, eating and drinking, washing, anointing, which we'll see what that means. Creams and things like that, and wearing leather shoes. And then activities that are prohibited on Tisha B'Av because they distract me, or they're activities that are related to Avelos. We're not allowed to learn Torah. We sit on the floor, and we sleep in an uncomfortable way. We're not allowed to interact with other people normally. We don't have she'elas shalom. We're not allowed to say shalom aleichem to people and interact normally. And marital relations are prohibited. Right? So these are all in terms of my interacting with other people, my focus. That these are things that are prohibited on Tisha B'Av day. So we'll go through each one of these now and just speak about a few of the details. So eating and drinking, like we know, most of the fast days begin by Alos HaShachar, early in the morning, but except for the exceptions of Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, which begin sunset already the day before, like we're just saying now. Earlier Shabbos already begins the fast. Already by sunset on Shabbos we have to stop eating and stop drinking. By other fast days, when it comes to the four minor fasts of Tain Sester and the Shavas of Tammuz and Sarah Teves and Tom Gedalia, so most poskim permit brushing teeth and rinsing out with mouthwash and rinsing out your mouth with water, but on Tisha B'Av you may not do, and Yom Kippur you may not do those things at all. It's a full fast, a full time. It's not even rinsing out your mouth. With mouthwash or anything along those lines. A person who needs to take medicine I'm not talking about a person who needs to eat and have medicine with food, that they should speak to their doctor about, or speak to a rabbi about. But let's say a person needs to swallow a pill and they need to have liquid with them to swallow the pill. So they should really try to swallow without liquid if they can. If they can't, then they should just take the smallest amount of liquid, preferably like warm liquid, so it's not like that they're enjoying it. Just the smallest amount of liquid that they can, that'll help the pill go down. But they shouldn't take like a big sip of water or anything along those lines. That's the halacha. As far as how a person, under what circumstances a person is allowed to break their fast. So the halacha is even on a regular year, meaning when Tisha B'Av is not pushed off a day, if a person is a chole she'ein bo sakana, that means that they are. I think we spoke about this when we spoke about Shabbos Tambuz. A person has a very bad headache. A person feels very nauseous. They don't need to be deathly ill. They don't need to be like on the verge of calling Hatzalah in order to break their fast. If a person is feeling very sick, they know that they would come home from work if this is how they were feeling. And again, not just because they're tired and weak. Everybody's tired and weak on a fast day. But a person is dizzy, nauseous, has a headache, has a stomach ache, cramping, whatever it is. So they're allowed to break their fast. It's not like it's not Yom Kippur, which is min haTorah, and it's much more serious. And if a person breaks their fast on Yom Kippur, they have to eat only a little bit, and that's only permissible for literal pikuach nefesh, if it's life and death. But when it comes to Tisha B'Av, it's not like that. It does not need to be life and death. If a person is sick, they're allowed to break their fast, and more so this year. When it's not even an actual day, when it's pushed off one day, so it's even a little more lenient in that respect. So, again, the person, obviously, we all have to try our fast and try to push ourselves. And, I know a person, 81 years old, and, he's fasting Shabbos Tammuz, fasting now. Mirz Hashem, should have strength, fasting Tisha B'Av. I wouldn't dream of, just drinking on the fast day if you didn't have to. And, so we really, really have to try. But if a person's not well, then they're certainly allowed to. There's no Indian to push yourself to get a terrible headache, until you can't focus anymore or anything that way. Now, the one thing that is different though this year is I mentioned a few times before, every Shabbos, any week, a person is not allowed to eat or drink until they say Havdalah. And that's going to apply this week also, even though we're not making Havdalah in the normal way. So it applies in two ways. It applies, number one, after the fast. Very often, let's say the case is I get home, the husband will get home later than the fast ends. Let's say the fast will end at 8:04, but I'll get home from shul at 8:20. By the time my gets over, and by the time I get home, and I'll get home, and my family will already be eating. Then they don't wait for me before they break their fast to drink and eat. But this year you have to make sure that they say Havdalah before I get home, right? Because you're not allowed to eat or drink before you make Havdalah. So how to make Havdalah, just to clear this point up. And this applies also to any person who's eating on the fast day itself, a person who is sick, a person who had a baby, and they're going to be eating or drinking on the fast day. So if you're just having a cup of water or a cup of coffee or something like that, then you don't need to make Havdalah first. If you're going to really be eating, or Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said, if you're going to be eating a shear, like a kazayis v'kidei achilas pras, going to be eating like a proper amount of food, so then you should make Havdalah before you eat. And the way you make Havdalah is just a regular break for your gafen and a mavdul ben kodesh l'chol. Again, we already did the eish the night before, and not no, you don't have to make over coffee or tea. That's and ha'esh we made already. The summon we don't make. The question of what to make Havdalah on, if you're making Havdalah on Tisha B'Av, should you? Practically speaking, the Muslims say you should just use grape juice, just the same. Some say better use beer or whatever, but you should just use grape juice if you need to drink or eat on Tisha B'Av. Okay, that's as far as eating and drinking.
This past Shabbos when we did Havdalah, would it have been preferable to use beer instead of grape juice?
It's also a big discussion in the poskim, and or to give grape juice and give it to a kid, and there's all different things. But practically we use grape juice at home. I looked into this many times over the years, and halachah l'maisa, most poskim say after all said and done, it's preferable to use grape juice. The question of what this other drink called Chamar Medina this accepted drink is very, very questionable. Like, does beer count? Does vodka count? Does Coke count? Does coffee count? Every posek says something different. Some poskim say there's no such thing anymore as Chamar Medina and only wine or grape juice. So practically speaking, the poskim say if you have wine or grape juice available, that's what you should use, and even during the 9 days, even on Tisha B'Av itself. That's what they say. Okay. So you want to say something else? You want to ask?
I just want. It's okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, now, number 2 is washing. This the next thing is what we have in terms of taking care of ourselves is washing. On Tisha B'Av there's an Isser of Rechitza. So whereas now, during this week, during the 9 days, the prohibition is only a Rechitza Shel Tainug. It's only washing, for enjoyment, and it's also, only washing the whole body. But on Tisha B'Av itself, so any sort of rechitza, even dipping your finger in a water, just because it'll feel nice, to feel cool water, that's prohibited to do. Any sort of pleasurable rechitza is prohibited. Somebody asked a question on the WhatsApp group: during the 9 days, if they're at the beach, are they allowed to walk in the water? To walk alongside. That was a good question. I thought the answer would be yes, because on Tisha B'Av it's clear that that's asr. But on Tisha B'Av that's asr, but I didn't think that'd be asr during the 9 days. Just to walk with your feet in the water.
Did you answer?
I said I think it was mutter. I said I think so. But on Tisha B'Av you can't do any interaction with water for pleasure at all. Washing for cleanliness purposes is permissible, and this includes your hands, your face, anything. You can't wake up in the morning and wash your face. Any sort of washing is prohibited. Washing for cleanliness purposes is permissible. And when I say cleanliness, it's either for actual physical dirt, like if a person's hands get dirty, or they change a diaper, or they go to the bathroom, or anything along those lines. So then they're allowed to wash whatever part of them is dirty. And also certain halachic things require washing. When your person wakes up in the morning, washing negelwasser, washing for davening, and these types of things, they also require washing. A person is considered halachically to be dirty under those circumstances. So any washing that's required al pi halacha, like waking up in the morning, and any washing when a person is actually dirty is mutter. However, what they say is as follows: whereas normally when we wash our hands for davening, or we wash our hands when we wake up in the morning, so we wash all the way up until our wrist, and that's the halacha. We have to wash all the way until the wrist. The water is supposed to envelop my whole hand, the front and the back, all the way to the wrist. When it comes to Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, when there's a prohibition of washing, so we wash just until our knuckle. We just the finger. You just pour onto your thumb and pour onto these fingers and these fingers, just until the knuckle, like just the fingers. The rest of the hand we try not to pour on. Now, obviously, the rest of your hand is going to get a little bit wet, and the Chazon Ish, the poskim say, it's better to get more than less. Right? In other words, it's more important to make sure that your whole finger gets wet, even if it means your hand getting a little bit wet, rather than doing too little and not doing enough. Right? Better too much than too little. But the idea is that you're not supposed to wash your hands like you normally do. And it's something it's hard to remember sometimes in the morning, especially when you just wake up in the morning. You're washing negelwasser. But it's important to try to remember not to wash like you regular wash, just washing up to your knuckles. You're not allowed to, again, wash your face in the morning. What you can do, certainly you can take a dry cloth or a dry towel and wipe your face. What you can do is you can wash your hands, shake off the water from your hands, or dry your hands a little bit until they're just barely damp. And what barely damp means that they would be so barely damp that if I would touch the table, if I would touch a surface, so then, the surface wouldn't feel wet afterwards, right? In other words, it's like a level of dampness. Okay, it's a halachic level called tofeach shelo al manas lahatfiach. It's like wet enough, but not to wet something else. So that in halacha is considered to be dry. So if you have like a very dry baby wipe, let's say, which is a little bit of dampness to it, that you would be allowed to wipe with. Or if you have, let's say, a towel that was wet and now it was squeezed out and left to hang, and now it's just a little bit damp, that you're allowed to use. But otherwise, you're not allowed to wash your face or anything. If a person wakes up and their eyes are crusty, or they feel dirty or something like that, so they're allowed to use a little bit of water, whatever they need to do, just to clear their eyes away. But again, not to wash their face, certainly not to enjoy it, to splash water onto themselves in order to to feel good and to wake up or anything like that. It's prohibited to do. Okay.
What about not water, like face cleaner that's like
Oh, I see.
alcohol and
Not if it's going to be wet like that. In other words, if it's a type of also like a type of a pad or something that's not so wet, it's like just a little bit damp. I would think that's okay. But if it's something like a wipe or something that's going to leave like wetness behind, then you wouldn't be able to use it. Okay, the next one is anointing. Sicha anointing. This is putting on oils or perfume. You're not allowed to wear perfume on Tisha B'Av. This also applies to Yom Kippur. These halachos. Makeup. All these types of things. Deodorant is mutter. Also, the deodorant antiperspirant is mutter, because the point is not to make a good smell, but to not make a bad smell. So that they say is permissible. Included in this prohibition of sicha, which is anointing and is jewelry. The halacha is that a person really is not supposed to wear jewelry on Tisha B'Av. The post would say if it's the type of thing a person never ever takes it off, they have a pair of earrings or something that they this is what they wear, they never take it off. So you're not mechuyev to take it off. You're not required to take it off. But sorry.
Yes, I have a question. I never take this off.
Ever? No.
I never take this off at all. So does that mean I should take it off or not?
It's kind of prominent. It's like a little prominent. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know if it's an aveda to keep it on or not. But the idea is to minimize the jewelry. Again, we're trying to show that we're broken and we're tzarachan and we're sad. So that's the point of all these things. We're disheveled. We're not clean. We're not wearing our Shabbos clothes. But So to wear, even though I wear it all the time, but if it's such a real piece of jewelry,
So
probably
people
better
take
not
off
to.
their wedding bands and wedding
Well, I don't know. It
bands?
could be a wedding band is like a little bit more inconspicuous and more, But I don't know. I think people probably don't. People probably keep them on. People, no, I don't know. People do.
What
probably.
about? I take my hat off.
You do,
What about a watch?
Well, I mean, if it's just a watch that you're wearing to know the time, that's okay. If it's like an ornate bracelet of a watch, then you probably should wear it also.
I keep my rings on for like washing, for hand washing, because I keep them on when I make
Yeah, I
calls.
think that's fine. I think it's something like that. I think it's fine. But you shouldn't be putting on jewelry. In other words, like when you're getting dressed that day, you're not supposed to be putting on jewelry. The type of stuff that's just like part of what you wear all the time. You're not supposed to take it off. You're not required to take it off. Can I have the water, please? Okay. So that's as far as thank you so much. As anointing is concerned. Finally, is shoes. When it comes to taking care of ourselves, the shoes that we wear. Thank you. We're not allowed to wear leather shoes. Now here is an interesting thing. There's a chumrah that Rabbi Weiss holds, which very often people are happy to hear leniencies from Weiss, but here is something that he's strict about, which is Rabbi Weiss holds that Crocs are not appropriate to wear on Tisha B'Av because interesting. He says they're very, very comfortable. And he said when it comes to Tisha B'Av, the halacha is clear that the idea is supposed to be that we're supposed to feel the difference in our shoes. We're supposed to feel the floor through the shoe. And the idea was in the olden days, leather was like the strongest type of a sole. And the idea was not to wear a leather sole, and that would force us to feel the floor, and it should feel like something different. So he said, halacha l'maisa, practically, if a person has Crocs, he didn't tell them that they're not allowed to wear them. And certainly, if you look around the minhag, it certainly seems to be common to wear them. But if a person's asking, if they would ask for Weiss, halacha l'maisa, practically, what's the best thing? He would say certainly to wear flip-flops or something, slippers or sandals, something that is less comfortable than my regular shoes. Crocs are very comfortable. You don't feel the floor through them the way that you feel on something that's more thin. But again, the minhag is that people wear Crocs as long as it's not leather. It's mutter, that's for sure.
It can't have any leather. I assume always that it can't have any leather.
If it's just like a Nike swoosh or something, is mutter. It has to be
like
leather.
this inside. Toms have their Toms have vegan. Toms have a vegan shoe.
Yeah, but
I
the
do
ones you
actually.
have aren't vegan.
Right. These aren't vegan because they have an insole.
So you can eat it. You can eat the shoe.
The same thing.
It has a suede insole.
No, the
That's
insole
also-
is also but
I have a pair of
any,
vegan Toms.
any part of the shoe
checked
that's like
these out,
an
but-
actual, like a real part of the shoe, so then it
The
can
decoration
be,
is okay.
Decoration is
Yeah.
okay, correct? Yeah, decoration is okay. And any other article of clothing is also leather is okay. If you have a leather jacket or whatever, you can wear. It's only leather. It's only leather shoes that are problematic. Okay. So that's as far as eating, washing, anointing, and shoes. Now, as far as activities go on Tisha B'Av, the things that we are and are not allowed to do. So this, number one, we'll talk about learning. The pasuk says that Torah is mesamche lev. That Torah makes a person happy. Torah invigorates a person. It elevates a person. And this is even Torah. We're not supposed to be looking to for solace, for for nachama, for comfort on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is not a day for being comforted. It's a day for focusing on the tzaros, for focusing on the difficulties. And therefore, because Torah is such a distracting thing, it's such a uplifting, elevating, distracting thing, so it's the one day a year that it's asur to learn Torah. A person is forbidden to learn the regular parts of Torah that they would learn any other day of the year. Now, parts of the Torah that focus on destruction, that focus on the Churban, the stories in the Gemara that deal with the Churban bias, certainly in the Megillah of Eicha, certain prophecies in Yirmiyahu, Sefer Eov, there are certain areas of Torah that are appropriate for the day, and those we're allowed to learn. But from this idea of learning on Tisha B'Av, we learn a very important idea of what the day is about and what it's not about. We're not allowed to do something that's going to distract us on this day. Now, this is like one of the hardest halachos of the year. If you to try to spend the whole day focused on this, especially when you've got kids and you're dealing and you're all sorts of things. So obviously, whatever I'm saying now, we have to do our best and just try. But the idea is that if we're not supposed to be learning Torah to distract us, we're certainly not supposed to be browsing the internet to distract us or going through Facebook to distract. There's not a day for sitting and reading a magazine and these types of things. If a person has time and they obviously can't be sitting and saying Tehillim all day and saying Kehinos all day, and or even maybe for part of the day. I'm sorry.
Tehillim you can say.
Tehillim can you say as a tefillah? I think you could say after Chatzos. After Chatzos you can say Tehillim. Before Chatzos you're not supposed to even say Tehillim. But you're supposed to then read things that are said. Read about the Churban bias. Read about the Holocaust. Watch YouTube videos about the Holocaust. It's a time that we're supposed to be focusing on the tzaros of Klal Yisrael, of which there's no shortage. And it's if we would try to do this, like I said in the beginning, we would try to do this all year long. So we would go crazy. But I'll give you just as a story that I go on a Poland trip. With the seminary now, we've gone 10 years, and so one of the years there was a girl that was just one day we went to a number of different places, and towards the evening we were in Treblinka, and we'd already been somewhere else that same day, and we showed them a very intense movie on the bus, and she was crying, and she's like, what are you doing? It's like it's overwhelming, and we were talking about it. I said, maybe for a Jew, one day in their lifetime to be overwhelmed by the Holocaust is not such a bad thing. It was an overwhelming event. And we don't really think about it so much, and we don't really focus it so much. Yes, maybe one day to be completely overwhelmed and broken by the fact that the Holocaust took place, and to let it hit me in that way. So maybe that's not such a bad thing. And that's like really what Tisha B'Av is supposed to be. Now, again, like we're not on that level that we're able to tap into that so easily. Maybe some of you are, halavai. But we definitely, it's not a day to be doing things to distract us. It's definitely not a day to be catching up on reading or recipes or or who knows what. And as much as we can, try to focus on what we can focus on, we should. I'd recommend to students to watch Holocaust survivor on YouTube. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of survivor testimonies, videos, hours and hours and hours of survivor testimony, all sorts of things that are available for people to see and to read about, things about the Churban bias, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, all these types of things. That's really what a person should try to be focusing on. Again, as much as we can, as much as is realistic. Certainly, I'm speaking to mothers with children, and the expectation is not supposed to be neglecting your children in order to be crying in a corner of your home. But maybe for 5 minutes you can. Okay, so that's as far as learning is going. You have to try not to distract yourself as much as you can. Okay, we sit on the floor on Tisha B'Av. This is also a halacha of avelus, that we sit on a low surface. There's no halacha about how high it has to be, 3 inches, 10 inches, or anything along those lines. It just has to be something that's noticeably lower. This is what Klal Yisrael does. Now, a person who is sick and it's uncomfortable for them, A woman who is pregnant, a woman who is nursing does not need to do this at all. And this is the one halacha that changes midway through the day, halfway at Chatzos Hayom of Tisha B'Av. So then we get up off of the floor and we already sit on a regular surface. And the poskim say you should not sit on the floor anymore at that point. Because after Chatzos, we should get up and sit on a higher surface. We explained, the reason is because at that point the fire already began in the Beis Hamikdash. And that was already the beginning of the Nechama, was already the beginning of the comfort for Klal Yisrael, because until that point they were afraid that Hashem was Chas v'Shalom going to wipe them out completely. But when they saw that He had focused His anger on the sticks and stones of the Beis Hamikdash, so that to them was already a sense of comfort that there was going to be continuity of Klal Yisrael. So then we get up off the floor. But otherwise we sit on the floor on Tisha B'Av. Likewise, we're supposed to sleep in an uncomfortable way. We're supposed to change something in the way that we sleep so that it's less comfortable than usual. Some people sleep on the floor. If a person sleeps with 2 pillows, they should sleep with 1 pillow. If a person sleeps with 1 pillow, they should try to sleep without a pillow. But the halacha is we try to do something. And again, this is something, if we would do this all the time, so maybe we would be too grumpy and it would be bad for our midos. So it's not worth it to mourn by sleeping on the floor if it's going to be bad for your midos. But real tzaddikim, the Satmar Rav who was saved, Rabbi Old Teitelbaum, he was saved on the Kastner train. One of the people who was saved from the Holocaust, but he lost everything in the Holocaust and his community and students. And from the time of the Holocaust on, he never slept on a bed again. He refused to sleep on a bed. He slept on the floor his whole life. Because he said, how can I sleep on a bed? How can I be comfortable lying on a bed, on a mattress, cozy on a mattress when this is what happened to my, my family and my people? And, there's such a thing as connecting to the Tsar of Klal Yisrael in that way. So again, we wouldn't handle it if we had to do it all year long, but on one night of the year on Tisha B'Av, to make ourselves uncomfortable and feel that pain and feel that uncomfortableness, and to say, I'm doing this in order to, feel the pain of Klal Yisrael, the pain of the Shekhinah, so that's what we do. Okay, the next one, this is also a very difficult one, but really has a lot to do with the tone, for me anyway, as far as my interactions of the day go, keeping the tone of the day. But She'elas Shalom is also on Tisha B'Av. You're not allowed to say hello to people in the normal way. You're not allowed to greet a person, or even to smile and nod and acknowledge them from across the room. You're not allowed to do. She'elas Shalom is, that's focusing on another person. That's what you do when you're happy, when you're upbeat, when you're, how's it going? How are you? So that's usher to do. Every year people ask, what exactly is included in this and what's not included in this. I was just looking around today in different things. I saw the very beautiful sefer, the sefer from Victor Neventhal, and as on Hashkafa and also Halacha. So he has here a whole list of things. What is included in this prohibition of She'elas Shalom? So there's a list of things. Boker Tov, Ma Shlomcha, Shalom, Ma Nishma. Right? So, Umadin Osan She'elot B'Safa Zara. And what about all of these things in English? Right? So what's the story of all of these things? So basically he says they're all asur. They're all asur.
And you're at Shalom, someone says it to you?
Oh, so the halacha is, so that's the next question over here. That's, this is, if a person asks, says to the person, Misha Omer L'Gadol Shalom U'Boker Tov, Eich La'agiv. How do you react? So the halacha is you're supposed to react in a quiet way. Don't ignore them, and don't mutter them out, especially because they're non-religious people. But you tell them, answer them in like a subdued fashion. But this is a hard halacha. It's a very hard halacha. That means when you answer the phone, you're not supposed to say hello. You're not supposed to say, shalom. You're supposed to say, Rosenstein residence, or Moshe speaking, or something. You shouldn't say
after
that.
Chatzos, can you?
I'm sorry? No, also after there's also a misconception. People think that it changes. The only thing that changes after Chatzos is the sitting on the chair, and also you're allowed to start preparing, food and stuff like that for after Tisha B'Av. But the halachas of saying hello and the shoes, everything else.
You can wash your dishes then?
You can wash it if you need them for
or-
Tisha B'Av. You could start preparing for Tisha
And if you don't need
B'Av.
them after Tisha B'Av,
Then it's
you
better
can
not
wash
to. Yes, preferable not to.
Chatzos is what time exactly?
I don't have the luach offhand. I can check on my phone afterwards. I don't know offhand, but it's be'erech 12:35 here usually.
Yeah.
So Okay, so this all good morning, good night, this type of thing when you're interacting with your family and your husband at home. You're not supposed to say good morning, you're not supposed to say good night, how are you, how are you things, it's supposed to be, it creates a very somber, not interactive type of environment, which is, the way that it's supposed to be on Tisha B'Av. Okay, that's a halacha of Sheila Shalom. Just one interesting thing, they say you are allowed to say Mazel Tov. Let's say you see a person that you haven't seen in some time, and they had a baby or something, they had a simcha, so you're allowed to wish them a Mazel Tov because that's a bracha. That's not like saying hello to them. That's like giving them a bracha that they should have Mazel. It was funny. Last year I went back to Chutz La'aretz. It was the same as this year. It was Shabbos Tisha B'Av, and I flew back to Chutz La'aretz to America for the first time in the summer in the 10 years that since we moved here. And I was there just for Shabbos, and I went to the minyan that I used to go to for Tisha B'Av morning. It was the first time I was there, and I saw, on Sunday morning, I saw, everybody that I hadn't seen in years that I saw there, and everybody was consciously not saying hello to each other, not saying,
It's funny
it was fun, it was just the way it was. But I saw people taking a double take, wouldn't expect to see me there, and but they couldn't say anything. It was okay. That's as far as Sheila Shalom. Okay, the last halacha has to do with husband and wife interactions. So the halacha is on Tisha B'Av. So husband and wife have to conduct themselves practically as if she's a nida, not with all the harchakos. In other words, they're allowed to pass things from one to another, but any sort of affection or affectionate interaction and certainly relations is prohibited on Tisha B'Av, also Yom Kippur. The same thing as far as this category of things go. Okay, so that's as far as learning, sitting on the floor, sleeping, Sheila Shalom, and relations. Like we said, Motzei Tisha B'Av, we finish the fast. You have to make Havdalah before eating or drinking. If your husband is not back yet, you make Havdalah for yourself. So you just have to say again, Brei Priagafen and Hamavdil, and just look it up in the siddur, and then after that you drink, and then you can eat or drink afterwards. Should be Yom Tov for Ritz Hashem. We shouldn't need to know the halachos, I hope. Ritz Hashem.
Hugging and kissing, physical affection with a parent or a child.
That's fine. That's what it is.
Should you wash your whole hand afterwards then?
Yes, people say that you should, after the fast, you should wash your whole hand like Negalasa because you didn't wash it, the whole hand in the morning. I don't know if it's a chiyuv, I don't know, if the person is required to do that, but that they don't did that, that's people do.
And is there anything that carries on into the next day?
No, thank you, very good. Okay, so this year, very good, thank you, I forgot about that. So after the fast, after Tisha B'Av, so normally when Tisha B'Av is on the 9th of Av, and the next day is the 10th, so until the Chatzos, until the midday of the 10th, there's certain halachos that still apply. No music and no meat and wine and no laundry and no washing. However, this year, because Sunday is already the 10th, so the only thing that applies that night is no meat and wine, but everything else is mutter. In other words, you could shower, you could listen to music, you could do laundry, everything already Motzei Tisha B'Av. The night after Tisha B'Av, just meat and wine you can't do.
Kilo after the fast.
Right after the fast, right after the fast. The meat and wine you have to wait until the next day, but everything else you can do. Anything else? I don't think. Missed anything.
At the beginning, I missed the first half an hour. And I came in on I will listen to it.